FaZe was in the dumps, not only as a stock asset that people were trading around in the stock market, but it also was in the dumps as far as like its clout and its aura, because there were a lot of shakeups taking place on the management side of FaZe. And then FaZe Banks came in, and I think he like tried to rebuy FaZe with a bunch of other investors, including with the DraftKings owner, Kalish. And they went in and they did definitely put a lot of money into it for sure. Because Banks was saying he put like $40 million into it. I don't know if that's the case. That's an insane amount of money. In any case, the new FaZe roster came out from that, and it was actually very good. And these guys were much smaller at the time. You know, Jason, Ronaldo, Lacey, Silky. Your Rage was also already in and out at that point, so he came before them. And then Adapt had always been a FaZe content creator for 14 years. They brought in this new talent. And I don't know how much money they put into it, but we're obviously going to be talking about FaZe Banks' video on this as well, because he did like a 12-minute rant on this, and there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of additional drama in the response, because Blackboy Max came out. He had left FaZe before anyone else did yesterday, and he came out and he talked about like why he had left FaZe, but obviously he has a non-disparagement clause pretty clearly, because there's certain things he can't say, but he can actually like at least allude to or point to other people that also worked in FaZe, including his assistant, who is also his cousin, that was talking about like the level of control that these guys had over everything that they were doing, and also the higher demands that they had in terms of revenue from the content creators that were generating revenue. So I think part of the problem here is that these guys put some investments in, not exactly certain as to how big those investments were, right? Because there's a lot of numbers floating around, but also regardless of those investments, like they did not have an understanding like what kind of revenue they were going to be able to generate off of these content creators. Because FaZe as a content group puts in more investment into their content creators than like Loaded does, because Loaded is just simply an agency. Either you have to be a completely separate agency in the same way that like Loaded is, right? And you're not going to make investments into the people that you are, you know, selling inventory on, or you just have to figure out a different way to generate revenue. And I suspect that for FaZe, the organization, the way that they wanted to justify the initial investment that they made into these content creators was demanding a higher percentage of the revenue that they were generating, demanding a higher percentage of the revenue that they were generating on their own streams, especially. And that's when it gets tricky. I have no evidence that that was the demand, for the record. And obviously, if you demand more revenue that they themselves are generating, the content creators themselves are generating, then they're going to say, nah, I'm not going to fucking do that. Because the reality of the matter is these content creators actually don't need FaZe. FaZe needs them.
Merry Christmas from Banks, formerly known as FaZe Banks. What a fucking terrible day.
What a
terrible year. I left FaZe 5 months ago, and this wasn't for a narrative. This wasn't for the camera. This wasn't for Twitter. This was very, very real. It was off the heels of some Twitter drama, and the boys were, you know, getting blown up in their comms and in their chats. And as we all know, in this world, wacky, strange world of streaming, that's really all that matters. These streamers, all of them, every last one of them, are forced to appeal to their comms and their chats and narratives on Twitter. And if they don't, they lose viewers. If they don't, they take a hit financially to their career. And this has a huge effect on who their friends are, who they're in relationships with, all of it, everything. The way they treat each other online is completely 100% based and rooted in the feedback that they get in real time from chats and comms. So again, as somebody, an old man, 34 years old, you guys never let me forget it.
Okay, it's not that old, man. Chill. You know, there are some of us who are also 34 years old,
who no longer makes content, who doesn't have a stream, who doesn't have his own platform. It's impossible for me to create a narrative or control my narrative or really respond. Not that I really give a fuck to anyways, but yeah, all this drama is created, and we get on a call 5 months ago and the guys are like, listen, we're over the drama. We think it's best if you just like publicly step down from FaZe, just to cool down the drama online. I reacted very emotionally to this. I was obviously took it very personally and was offended because, again, I used my entire network, every dollar that I've ever made, everything that I've ever had, this brand that I built, I used all of it as leverage to start these guys as a content group and to kick this shit off with the sole goal and intent to bring FaZe back to the top, which we did. We did that all collectively. Over the last 2 years, FaZe has won Org of the Year twice. And yeah, I was the first guy in the room. These guys would have never lived in a house together if it wasn't for me. These guys are all at minimum 10 times the size in terms of audience and platform now as before they joined FaZe. These guys have all made millions and millions and millions of dollars in the last 2 years, and none of them could ever dispute the fact. Max just said it himself on his stream. Joining FaZe was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. I've heard that from Lacey. I've heard it from Silky. I've heard it from Jason. I've heard it from Ron. I've heard it from Adapt. I've heard it from every single person that's ever joined FaZe, specifically these guys. And I'm here to tell you, as former FaZe Banks, this was one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my entire life.
So there is some, like joining FaZe and like creating a content group, going under the banner of FaZe was a mutually beneficial situation because FaZe was in the shitter as a brand, right? And all of the new talent that they brought on, who were obviously very talented in their own way, was able to revitalize the brand. But it's crazy to say that it was because of FaZe that these guys were able to pop off. Like, it was their own talent, right? It was their own talent. It was their own timing, comedic timing. It was their own entertainment that they were creating. It was the friendships that they made. Like, it's not like these guys were tiny content creators either before they joined FaZe. They were up there. They were nowhere near as big as they are now, but they were certainly having a blow up. Yeah, Jason had 9K average viewers before FaZe because he was collabing with Cutie and others, lol, so he was already big. These guys have basically mastered like the TikTok clip feeding back to your live stream meta even before they joined FaZe. So you're just gonna glaze them? What? First of all, yes, I am gonna glaze them. I think they did a great job, and I've always said that they've done a great job, and I will continue saying that. So yeah, Jason averaged 3K. He met Cutie after FaZe. No, that's not true. Jason did not meet Cutie after FaZe. You're fucking wrong. Cutie Cinderella literally had Jason the Ween on to do Feliz Navidad in her like Christmas stream 2 fucking years ago. So no, you're just wrong. And this isn't even like lore in general. Okay, this is just things that I personally fucking experienced, my friends and coworkers and peers. So it's kind of funny to come here and tell me this shit. That was before he ever got on FaZe. You don't watch Twitch though? I don't know. I trust your information. That's true. I don't really watch Twitch. So you're not wrong about that. But I do know these people. So they brought these guys who were already building their own audiences, who already had a pretty decent understanding of how to make content, right? And you know, it was the connective tissue. Like being under the FaZe banner certainly brought them together. So there was definitely some investment there. To say that this was just because of FaZe would be wrong. Okay, it was mutually beneficial for sure. But at the end of the day, FaZe as an organization needed the talent more than the talent needed FaZe. And that's precisely what has happened now. That now they have no talent left because they all left one by one at the same time. And that's the reason why this is newsworthy. I think the problem here, the additional demands that they were making on the organization side in order to justify the revenues that they were not generating. So they wanted to generate those revenues off of the content creators and the revenues that they were generating themselves, right? Like their subscriptions, for example. When you actually demand money from the individual content creators, like from their own subscriptions or from their own revenue that they're generating on their YouTube pages or their TikTok or whatever the fuck, it's just not going to work. Of course, they're going to be like, nah, that's not happening. Okay. And I think that ultimately, this is what it comes down to. Look, see, he says these guys had free housing, free filmers and staff, all FaZe channels, 0% income shared. Their money and platforms all skyrocketed after meeting me, but I'm the bad guy. None of it makes sense. And like I said above, I'm going to get into all the details tomorrow. The thing is, even if you actually hired the initial cameraman and stuff, right? This is one of the only parts of a labor corporate structure that genuinely benefits the labor side, because the labor side has way more salience and is in front of people. So partially the reason why I'm talking about this is because you can't have a similar issue like this in a regular workplace where people immediately understand, because they don't have a fucking parasocial relationship with like the delivery drivers, okay, that are delivering your fucking packages. But they do have a parasocial relationship with the content creators. So they automatically understand that FaZe is nothing without the content creators. They're not as replaceable as your bosses in your regular ass fucking workplace will have you feel like you are replaceable. Then what is the point of FaZe? Well, therein lies the issue. Therein lies that is the problem in and of itself. They didn't actually come in and be the connective tissue and maybe make more reasonable. Yeah, he's doing a stream today. How does free housing go together with PBM having to pay $20K a month for the guest house? Exactly. They didn't, for the new talent that they brought on, if they had spent less money and had a better revenue share agreement from the start, I think this wouldn't be as big as an issue. But they went in, they dumped a boatload of money, as they usually do. And I think they wanted more. They wanted more in return for that initial upfront investment they made into like the expensive house that they got for everybody, for example, right?
I gave up my entire adult life to this. I have put myself in millions and millions and millions of dollars in debt. I have never made not one singular dollar outside of my
FaZe boys are not workers. No, in this structure, they absolutely are. What do you mean? If the company's output is revenue generated off of advertisement that they're selling on the fucking streams, then yeah, they are the people that are actually doing the labor. They're technically doing the labor. I know it doesn't sound like a regular structure, but in entertainment, this is how it works.
Salary via FaZe. Not selling it, not buying it, raising money. I've just put myself further and further in debt. Yeah.
Do you believe this, that he made $0? I have no idea. I don't know, because I feel like he must have exited, right? Like if he sold his shares, if he sold his like ownership stake in the company, then he did exit. So I don't know how he's saying like I made $0 off of it. I think what's really interesting about this conversation, what confuses me about this conversation, is how he's saying like, oh, I dumped 40 million into this and then I got nothing in return, even though he like owned a significant percentage of the company, right? But what I don't understand is like how you made, I mean, maybe he made zero profit, maybe he lost money in the process. I don't know. I don't fully comprehend this at all.
Singular dollar outside of my salary via FaZe. Not selling it, not buying it, raising money. I've just put myself further and further in debt. Yeah, I think FaZe to acquire and all the costs.
It's like the iDubbbz Creator Clash. Why are all creator events so poorly managed? I think it's because these kinds of things are incredibly difficult to put together in general. And that's why there is a need for professionals who specifically make this kind of stuff work. This is what I explain to people all the time. Whenever motherfuckers go, why don't you start your own news company? Why don't you start your own media empire? And I'm like, that's not what I'm good at. I'm not ever going to be in a managerial position. I don't want to do that. Okay. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not good at that. And this is part of the reason why, even though I had opportunities to get even like ownership stakes in other orgs similar to this, I have said no over and over again. Even when people have asked me like, oh, do you want to co-found an organization, or if you want to join an organization, I've always said no. It can be valuable for others, especially smaller content creators who are just starting their careers, right? But I've also said no to the ownership side of things as well, because it's just, it's complicated. It's like it's a job in and of itself, and it's not within my skill set.
Costs for these guys' careers over the last 2 years, I think ballpark 40 million bucks. And I think probably collectively these guys have had to have probably made like 20 million in the last 2 years collectively, I would guess. And not $1 of that 20 million has ever gone back to FaZe. Never mind me. Even if it did ever go back to FaZe, that shit, it's not mine. And I just fucking can't believe it. I can't believe I'm in this position now where people are calling for my head. People are wishing for my death. People are telling me I ruined FaZe. I ruined FaZe, guys. I ruined it. When I have had not one say in anything that's gone on in the last 5 months, and I set all this shit in motion in the first place, I ruined it. I ruined it. There's 5, 6 individuals who are multimillionaires and have beautiful careers ahead, and God bless you, and I wish you guys the best, and I ruined it.
Yeah, streamers that are at the top make lots of money largely because streaming has very little overhead. Exactly. Okay, exactly. As a streamer, you can literally just strap a camera onto your fucking PlayStation, and if you've got something unique that people want to tune into, you can literally, with this virtually zero overhead, continue to generate content. And that is precisely the reason why, in terms of like the labor negotiating power here, the labor has all the fucking leverage. Unlike any other sector, you have all the leverage. So of course, when a company goes in and tries to do corporate shit, they're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, if we went in a time machine 2 years back and I decided to never try to fix this FaZe shit, I'd be much better off. I'd have more money, and these kids would just be doing what they were doing before. It's hard for me to sit here and take that. It really is. And I plan on going live tomorrow or the next day at some point in the future and really kind of just laying it all out. A to Z, start to finish, the entire 15-year history of this, specifically the last 2 years, specifically the behind-the-scenes shit.
Yeah, here, this is a great example. It feels like a restaurant owner complaining about paying for their waitstaff uniforms, name tags, and break room, and still not getting any of their tips. Exactly. In this situation, it's literally telling the wait staff, like, no, you got to give me more, a higher percentage of the tips that you're making, because we're just not, we're on the verge of insolvency. We're about to go bankrupt. Bank sounds like a restaurant owner complaining about paying their waitresses uniforms, work shoes, and break room, and is sour that he's not getting any of their tips. Exactly. In this situation, that is a pretty solid analogy. The difference, however, is that unfortunately under capitalism, your worth to your bosses when they are putting a contract together, especially in the absence of unions, is measured on your replaceability, right? Brother, I love you, but you can't say streaming isn't the same as other workplaces and use comparisons to it. No, oh my God. As far as output goes, they are the ones who are creating the fucking value, okay? The streamers in this situation would be the workers. The corporation in this situation would be FaZe, okay? I'm looking at it from a pure labor structure, labor versus capital, especially because this is obviously something that a lot of people are tuning into, is something that a lot of people are invested in, okay? A lot of young people are invested in this story. So I'm trying to explain how labor works in the adult world by using an example that a lot of kids are actually tuning into, okay? A lot of kids have a lot of investment in. Every time we have a conversation about players' contracts with players' unions in the NFL or players' unions in the NBA, everybody goes, I don't understand. Socialism is about being poor. These guys are really rich. So obviously, how can you apply a proletarian versus capital perspective for basketball players? They make a lot of money. Like, you unironically end up doing the same thing that dumbass, stupid fucking reactionary right-wingers do, okay? If there's a guy making $1 million, there's someone who owns that person who's making $1 billion, okay? Stop getting caught up in the fucking aesthetics of the conversation. Oh my Lord. It's the same principle behind like why unions are necessary in SAG-AFTRA, okay? You're not doing fucking praxis by being an annoying dumb fuck in this goddamn chat. Stop. All right, let's keep going.
In the dynamic between all the kids in the back end, because I just watched some clips from this Black Boy Max stream where he's playing a laugh track over my tweet, and it's like, Max, I know we.
This was what like pissed him off a lot. He didn't even like read the tweet, but the tweet was, I have nothing to do with what's going on in FaZe Clan right now. I left 4 months ago and I moved on with my life. Unfortunate to see. Wishing everyone involved the best. If there's anything I could do to help, I'm here. Nobody loves FaZe more than me.
We've had like our individual differences, and I know I haven't really seen eye to eye with a lot of the talent because truthfully and honestly, I find you guys all to be incredibly ungrateful. I find you guys all to have insane egos, and I think it's disgusting and makes me sick to my stomach that your guys' relationships with each other.
He got real Toronto here. Sick to my stomach, fam.
With every other streamer and your community included is so incredibly fake. You guys are the best actors on planet Earth, and you've made a complete career out of all of it. Max. This part I don't believe. I think he got emotional and I think he got mad. And I think he just wanted to like throw a little bit of a fucking grenade into the convo to invite suspicion. But obviously, like, I don't think people are going to believe that regardless. But I think this was not correct. In my honest opinion, the best comparison is actors seems to have very similar dynamics, although with more powerful organizations. No. Yes and no. Yes, because like obviously the talent drives box office numbers, or at least used to back in the day. But no, because the thing that's different is that you can't really make a whole ass movie with just actors. The replaceability factor with the low barrier of entry into making the same exact content that you're making in the realm of Twitch streaming, in the realm of streaming on the internet, makes it much more difficult to control. If anything, the industry that's actually very good at offering a lot of value to young talent and trapping them in the worst contracts is music. If you want to actually compare it, because like you can be a fucking musician on your own, okay? But because the record labels basically own everything and make it virtually impossible for any musician to be independent, they can be as abusive as they want to. And their contracts are, if you guys know anything about record labels, they are the most abusive contracts out there. Music probably is the most similar comparison to Twitch streaming in that regard, where musicians have deep parasocial relationships they cultivate with their fan bases. It's a very personal relationship that a lot of people have with their favorite musicians.
Record labels basically own everything, though. They own the platforms. They own virtually every aspect of creating this product, and therefore they can trap you in a 360 deal, especially if they pluck you from nothingness and give you a bunch of upfront investment and then consistently farm revenue from you for the rest of your fucking life. Okay? Technically, you could literally be a musician on your own. All you need is all you need is your voice. All you need is your personality. All you need is your skills in writing a song. All you need is maybe, an understanding of how to produce music. But while that in and of itself, especially with how all of these tools are now readily available to you in terms of like production and stuff like that, there is, as long as you have, recording equipment, all this stuff, you could technically try and be a musician on your own, but it's much more difficult. Okay. Although DIY is more accessible than ever, they basically own every aspect of getting you on charts, putting you up with like the best producers, and crafting a narrative, crafting a marketing campaign, putting you in venues and stuff like that. And that's the reason why they can still continuously justify these hyper exploitative contracts on musicians, right? In the streaming space, they don't actually have this level of control, and therefore they can't do this level of exploitation to streamers in general, because streaming is a relatively new industry, and they don't own, like a lot of these organizations don't own the platforms that you need to go to be able to stream yet. It might happen in the future, or like Amazon might try to do its own version of like an MCN or something in order to generate even more revenue off of people. And at that point, it would be quite difficult for a lot of newcomers to survive in that realm without having to join BeastTube or, FaZe Amazon or whatever the fuck, right? Basically, they don't have this level of control over the people that make the content yet. And that's the reason why these sorts of issues are happening.
These are your boys, but these are the same guys that said they fucking hated your guts after you left. And, you're the program, you have an ego this side, you think you're Travis Scott and this and that. And also, like, next, multiple conversations about how Ron's content's cringe and you guys didn't fuck with the dad. None of you guys fucked with Lacey or Jason in the beginning. You guys didn't want these guys to live in.
Let's be real. Nothing a Twitch streamer makes comes close to even the worst music law. Oh my fucking God. Yes, dude, I know. The value of labor, especially in the entertainment side, is about what you personally think it is. You're right. It has nothing to do with like whether or not you are generating revenue for someone else. It's not real if I don't care about it. Like, for example, the only real labor in my mind, because I'm the biggest leftist of all time, in my mind, the only real labor is coal miners. Coal miners are the only actual people that are working, because they're working and they're getting black lung and they're working in horrible conditions. And that's the only real labor. Like, for example, I don't like Starbucks. I don't go to Starbucks. And therefore, people that work at fucking Starbucks, they're not real laborers. Even though they have wages, even though they're working for a mega corporation that's generating a lot of value off of their labor, I don't personally think that's valid because I don't like them. I don't like Starbucks workers, so they're not real work. That's how we judge this stuff, okay? Leftistly. It's so fucking stupid. This is not how it works, okay? That's not how, this is not judged off of whether or not you say so or whether or not you like their output. I don't even disagree with you. I think by and large, including what I fucking do, like streaming is not a real job. I've always said this. I've always maintained this position. We're unimaginably fortunate individuals. We literally are winning the lottery every single fucking day. Every single day. And I try to do my very best to make sure that I use that privilege for good, to expand people's consciousness, to try to educate people to the best of my ability, use my privilege for broad awareness initiatives and things like that, and even fundraising initiatives. Having said that, in terms of like somebody making money off of you, okay, it is labor in that regard. To enrich in yourself, you're right. To enrich in myself, you did it. Yeah.
Anywhere near you, you barely wanted to share a brand with them. But FaZe was going to fund a Miami house for you, Rage, Silky, and Kason, so fuck it. We'll take what we can get. And then it all worked. And we forced this relationship. And I was called a fucking retard then, and I was told then I was ruining FaZe. And now 2 years later, it wound up being the best thing that ever happened. So you understand why I'm sitting here and I'm frustrated. I would hope anyone watching could sit here and understand why I would be frustrated while a fucking entire hate mob is coming after me on fucking Christmas, my first Christmas without my mom, when all I've ever fucking wanted to do is help FaZe be successful. That's all I've ever wanted to do. That's the only intent. Where's the money? I'm this fucking guy who's trying to take everything from everybody. Where is it? Then why the fuck am I millions of dollars in debt? Where is it? It's in Blackboy Max's bank account. It's in fucking Silky's bank account. It's in Jason, Ronaldo, Lacey's bank account.
See, this is what I mean. It's like, this is wrong. Okay. I don't, I don't agree with Brother Banks on this at all. He's saying I made these guys and they generated millions and millions of dollars, but because they're streamers, they got to keep that revenue. And it's like, yeah, because those are their subscriptions. Those are their, advertising revenue. There is this dynamic here of like friendship versus business. And I think that's what muddies the waters a little bit. I think the main problem with this discourse is that you talk about how much money y'all streamers make. When its success is measured with clout, there's no other workforce like it. Musicians need talent, actors too. There are some talentless streamers, most of your haters, that are extremely successful because of clout. No, there are also musicians that you might not consider to be fucking talented at all. It's entertainment. I think you're misunderstanding. Clout is money, okay? Relevance and clout and eyeballs that you get turns into money in the streaming space. Because if you're clicking the run an ad button on your Twitch stream, for example, if you have 10 people, you're only getting 10 cents. If you have 1,000 people, you're getting 1,000 people's worth of ad dollars. If you have 100,000 people watching, in that situation, when you click ad, you're going to get 100,000x that, okay? And music is also subjective. Every form of entertainment is subjective. There are plenty of Twitch streamers who I don't tune into. I don't really understand what they offer, what kind of value they offer at all. Is not for me, right? And I'm willing to bet that a fuck ton of people would say the same about me, as a matter of fact. There are more people who think I bring no fucking value than there are those who believe that I bring value, okay? Let's be real. You can make this argument about anything, though. Motorcycles are worthless to me. No, I know. That's why it's a stupid argument to make. I agree.
I wish this never happened. I wish that I never did any of this. And they'll all still tell you this was the best decision they ever made in their life. I'm emotional and I'm passionate. I'm never going to apologize for that. Anything that I do, anything that I speak on, anything that I work on, any talent that I fuck with, anything that I touch, I will always be 100% 2 feet in. That's just who I am. And everything that I'm telling you guys right now is fucking straight facts. Again, the fact of the matter is, every single one of these guys has a bigger platform and an audience because they joined FaZe and met me, and has millions and millions of extra dollars because they met me. Whereas I, on the other hand, have lost years of my life.
Look, I'm telling you right now, this is completely incorrect, okay? I'm sorry. Who knows where Jason would be and Ron would be at this point, and I'm sure that they would not be as popular as they are currently, okay? Because there is a lot of probability here. Luck plays a factor in this. The idea that these guys' output would be dramatically different, or the levels that they reach would be nowhere near as like successful as they are, if it wasn't for FaZe Clan bringing them together, is wrong. Especially because even if it wasn't FaZe, even if it wasn't called FaZe Clan, they could have just as easily found one another and decided to fucking rent out an apartment together and make content that way. Like trying to put a percentage on like what level of involvement you had and then claiming as though, but they didn't do that. That's the point. Yes. The reason why I love this fucking story, it is a perfect story to identify how much of a fucking capitalist brain rot you have in your mind, regardless of how long you've been a part of this community. Okay. This is the reason why capital owners say it's unfair to share bigger profits with the workforce, with the laborers. This is how they say it. They say, we made a bet on you. We made a bet on this business. We dumped a lot of upfront capital into this business. And that's why, of course, you're replaceable and you're going to shut the fuck up and do the work. And if we demand more of the earnings, if we demand more of your tips, for example, then you have to shut the fuck up and do it. And a lot of people, regardless of how socialist minded they might think they are, kind of fall into this trap no matter what happens. And by the way, chatter, I'm not like trying to dunk on you at all. Okay. I need you to understand. I'm not trying to dunk on you at all. Everybody does this because that is how hegemonic and overpowering capitalism is, where it is seen as a necessary part of our lives, our existence. But why isn't that argument valid? The reason why that argument is not valid is because, especially in the case of streaming, Jason could have been this successful or maybe even more successful, whether he was a part of FaZe or not. The notion that he had the FaZe brand associated with his name is not the reason why people tuned in. Why are you dunking on someone you're friends with? You create your own enemies, dude. First of all, I'm not even dunking on FaZe Banks, because the other side of this story where there is validity is that they did actually bring all these people together. Okay? They did. They brought these people together. They paid for a house. They didn't, at least until like recently, demand anything in exchange for that, as far as I understand. I don't know how truthful this side of the story is, right? Because obviously, if that was the case, and if these demands that FaZe as the organization was making was reasonable, then I don't think Adapt would have left, right? What I take issue with is, I'm a Twitch streamer, and as a streamer, when I see other people say, oh, we made you, I made you, this company made you, that's not correct, okay? That's not correct at all. Because especially when it comes to streaming, right? It's such a personal relationship that you have with your audience that it's just silly to make that argument. You either have something or you don't, right? Like, we jokingly say this stuff, but like Cutie, one could make an argument that Cutie had more of a profound role, played a more profound role in Jason's development as a content creator than even FaZe did, right? Because in different parts of your career, going from like 100 viewers to 1,000 viewers is a big leap. Going from 0 viewers to 15 is the biggest leap, right? It's a major leap. But even then, that's still a stretch, right? No, that's a stretch. Exactly, it is. Because nobody technically makes you. It's who you are. It's who you are and what you want to accomplish that plays a role in your content. It's that simple. So they're all quitting FaZe because they did avaricious corporate stuff. I missed the important part of the segment. Yes. You're biased because you don't own an org. Do you own an org? Yes, I'm biased because I'm on the side of labor in every single fucking story, including in this one. The fuck? In this circumstance, I've known FaZe Banks for a lot longer than I've known Jason, okay? I've known FaZe Banks for even longer than I've known Adapt, for example. I should be biased in his direction, and yet I'm not letting my own personal feelings or my own personal opinions cloud my judgment in this, because I'm looking at this from a purely labor perspective, okay? Labor versus capital. And in that regard, of course I'm going to side with the people that are making the content itself. They put you on a podium to show, but the act is way more important. You can throw the act. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, if all of those guys collectively decided, I don't want to fucking stream tomorrow, then what kind of money is FaZe Clan making? Nothing. Okay? That's how it goes. You can play a role in the development of talent, and I'm sure FaZe did, right? Definitely. But the reality of the matter is the much larger share of responsibility in terms of all of the output still comes from the individual content creator.
To this shit, and am significantly worse off financially. Significantly. This has destroyed me. My whole life has been completely destroyed in the last 4 or 5 months, but nobody...
I'll be honest though, I don't even know why FaZe Banks is related, or not even FaZe Banks, but Brother Banks is even related in this story, because I don't know enough of the details of what happened in the background.
Gives a fuck, because I don't have a Twitch chat, and I refuse to be one of the people to just do what you guys are telling me to do. I don't know, guys. This streaming shit is so fucking fried. It really is. The narratives, the clips, the fucking the appeal to comms and chat, and like the willingness to just fucking, you know, it's funny. Everybody looks at these streamers as guys.
Yeah, to your point about FaZe needing the creators, not a soul knows Jason is FaZe Ween. Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest examples of this is fucking Plaqueboy Max. Plaqueboy Max pulled the ripcord out before anyone else did, and at the time he was getting like yelled at a bunch. Okay, and guess what? Did Plaqueboy Max die off into irrelevancy post FaZe? No. I mean, he's still serving it up. That's it. That's all you need to fucking know. So if you were Banks and you made these guys millionaires, you wouldn't be mad if they didn't give you 20%? Brother, he didn't make them millionaires. That's the whole point. You think that. That's not how it fucking goes. It's like, can you imagine if Cenk literally every day was going on the Young Turks broadcast and constantly complaining that I'm not just giving him revenue, being like, I made him. I gave him an opportunity. To be fair, that is a more valid argument than even what Banks is making, because I literally did not have any fucking social media footprint whatsoever when I first started working at the Young Turks. I worked my way up through the fucking ranks. I was putting a lot of effort into free labor that was given the Young Turks at the time. Made all these different shows and shit. Shows were banging. Didn't have any fucking control over even the I had control over my own editorial output, but I didn't have any IP control over the shows that I was making. And I wanted to make my own thing. But could you imagine if he was like, yeah, no, it's just, you know, I'm demanding all of the fucking, I'm demanding 20% of the revenues because you would not be known. You would not be known if it wasn't for the Young Turks. That would be absurd. Everyone would understand that that is fucking absurd, right? I think.
And people who have these massive audience and have influence over millions of people and can impose their opinions and their will on millions of people, but it's not true. It's the exact opposite. The traditional influencer is dead. These kids are the most heavily influenced people on the planet. They are puppets attached to millions of.
Also, even if he did, that's not how life works. You don't get to retroactively demand people pay you millions dollar contract. What people also don't understand is that Banks wasn't doing charity. He brought them together for a purpose, reviving FaZe. He gave them shit for free because of that. He got what he wanted. FaZe is popping again, and he's mad his gamble worked, and he didn't exploit them more while he could. I don't even know how much of that anger is coming from Brother Banks. I genuinely thought that this was just like the corporate side demanding more return for their initial upfront investment. But yeah, in that regard, you know, putting them in front of all these other like famous people and like setting up these collaboration opportunities, the upfront investment into like renting out fat houses and all this shit. Yes, that played a role in these guys blowing the fuck up. But at the end of the day, they were the ones who were blowing the fuck up. They were the ones who were blowing the fuck up. So I don't even understand how like if he already pulled out the ripcord and he exited, I don't even know what he's like mad about in this situation, because he already put the money in. And then he pulled it out. Maybe he didn't get like everything he wanted to. I don't know.
Strings. And if their comms and their fucking chats say that the sky is red and they disagree and they say, no, chat, I think it's blue. I think it's blue. Once that fucking viewer number starts to fall off, once they start to see L's in their chat, once they start to see hate threads in their fucking comms, they switch up real quick and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about objective truth. It's the sky is red. I've been trying to talk to these guys for 4 or 5 months and they don't give a fuck. All they care about is their stream, which is completely fine. I don't need them to give a fuck. I don't need anybody to pretend to care. I'm done pretending to care. But if I had 100,000 viewers, if my name was Kai Cenat, they'd fucking be on my. They'd be welcoming me with open arms. I would have had a big fucking red comfy chair at the Streamer Awards to fucking, hey.
You must have never seen a Hassan chat? No, I don't think he, I mean, what he's saying is that like a lot of content creators are, they live and die by their audiences. He's basically saying like all these streamers are audience captured. I can't really speak on all of these new creators and whether they're audience captured or not. I think a lot of streamers are audience captured to a certain degree. It's not wrong, like for sure. I don't think it's there is some truth to it, especially but like non-directional streamers. Like if your job is like to be a people pleaser, if your job is to like you know, generate a big audience and entertain them and stuff, like there is definitely a little bit more of leaning into whatever your fucking audience says about you. But like I think one of the greatest examples of these guys not being super audience captured is their fucking fan bases. There's plenty of these streamers whose fan bases actually fucking despise me, and they've never had an issue with like collaborating with someone like myself, for example. So if they were incredibly audience captured, then they probably would never do that. And you can say, Hassan, you have clout, right? I am still one of the largest content creators on this platform, but I do think that if that was the case, if that was the fucking case, like it's much easier to just say like, fuck Hassan, as many people have done so in this sphere, in this industry.
Come fuck with us, bro. Let's do a stream tomorrow. Like, that's just what it is. And you guys know that's what it is. And anybody arguing against that is just fucking completely lost. It's fucking fried, bro. It's fucking fried. And I'm happier than ever to be going my separate way. And I'm glad that what happened 5 months ago. I'm happy to be off of it. There is no future for me in FaZe. There is none. That was my last try. That was it. There's nothing, I have nothing left to give this. I gave it my entire adult life and I tried my hardest. And for anybody who's a fan of me and anybody who's a fan of FaZe, I am sorry, I've absolutely failed you. And the one thing I'm perfectly okay with taking accountability for is being the root cause of all of this. Because at the end of the day, I am. This is, in a fucking twisted way, all my fault. Because at the end of the day, I put these guys in a room. At the end of the day, I went and raised money. I convinced, you know, these business people that this vision and these guys were a good bet to take. I thought in good faith that, you know, if we gave people careers, if we fucking gave everybody the best resources and this shit worked, then
Bro, the problem in this situation is they didn't need to put however much investment that they put into it. And I don't know what the actual numbers look like, but like they could have had a sustainable business model without all of the fucking money that they dumped into it if they did, right? Like this is it's like getting upset that you made an investment and that investment actually succeeded in the way that you wanted to make this investment because you wanted to revitalize the FaZe brand. The reason why you wanted to revitalize the FaZe brand is so that you could sell stuff to the new FaZe audience with the association of the FaZe brand. That succeeded. But instead of just like finding more sponsorships to bring on, asking for a higher percentage of the revenue that they were generating on their own, I mean, that's not going to work. That's why I personally think the analogy with like waiters is a great example of this, where it's like you're demanding that the waiting staff, because of all the upfront investment you put into like putting this business model together, the waiting staff are making tips and people are coming in specifically to see the waiting staff. And now you're like, well, I kind of want some more of the tips because otherwise we're just going to go bankrupt. It's like really fucked up. Streamers can basically do the exact same stream that they're doing with their fucking phones, right? Maybe it'll be not the same. Maybe it won't be as like popping or whatever, right? But if they can do the exact same fucking stream on their phones, then they're gonna do that. It's a very there is not a lot of tremendous cost associated with. There's not a lot of overhead. There's no barrier of entry into streaming. There's a tremendous barrier of success. There's a tremendous barrier to reaching a level of success. But once you reach a level of success, it's entirely in the hands of the person to continue that success or to continue expanding on that success.
And everything else will figure itself out. And I'm so fucking naive and retarded to have not made sure everything was fucking better articulated and solidified and just like people were on the same page. I don't know, man. I failed miserably. It's not the first L that I'm taking in my life. It's not the first time I've failed. But yeah, I wish that, in a weird way, I do wish that I fucking was closer to the fold the last 4 or 5 months. I don't think that this all would have happened this way.
The better, like the best scenario here would be if this is based around friendship and vibes, then you run it in a cooperative structure. That's it. If it's based on friendship, vibes, clout, then you don't put that much investment up front, okay? And you also start in that same way, right? Not a FaZe Clan, but a FaZe guild.